Andrea, it's great to be here in Lincolnshire on a sunny Friday afternoon.
Great to see you after all these years, Ben.
Great to see you too. We're here at Politics UK to ask local candidates at the local elections and regional elections what their plan means for our readers across Lincolnshire, but also how that plays into a national picture as well.
Absolutely.
So straight over to you, really. What's your vision? What's your plan for Lincolnshire if you get elected on the 1st of May?
Well, I think it's important to restore that trust. I mean, we've seen that the turnout's low across, the last few elections, and we've seen with the Labour government how they've put stuff in manifesto and they're doing U-turns, not delivering. So to me, it's about restoring trust. I'm not promising things that I know I can't deliver just to get the votes. A big thing for me is actually making sure that every penny of taxpayers' money is well spent. So one of the first things I would like to do is have a Lincolnshire Doge, where we actually look at contracts, make sure there's no nepotism. We also look at the tendering process. We look at what money's been spent on and look for savings. I think in every government department there can be savings. And then by doing this, it means that we can keep council tax lower, and which is better for the public. So that's one of the first things. Another thing I'd like to do as well, because Lincolnshire is so vast. I mean, I moved here from Yorkshire when I was 7 years old. I went to school, college, university in Lincolnshire. I was a councillor in Lincolnshire, and the infrastructure's never been right, no matter what government's in power. So what I would like to do is, we know Sadiq Khan has got the Transport for London, which was obviously predates him. I'd like to have a Transport for Greater Lincolnshire, which will be a board of key decision makers to actually blow away this silo approach. But where Sadiq Khan has all these diversity officers on, I want key decision makers. So we have a joint approach, because to me, in the rural areas, a bus route should not be a last resort, it should be a lifeline. We need to look at the roads, how we joined up because of the arteries of the county, and we need to look at the trains. I mean, I've been even thinking outside the box, Ben. In Japan, they've got these amazing buses that go on train lines. So I was thinking, can we even look at some of the beachings, what's still there, lines to be innovative?
Absolutely. So let's unpick some of this in a bit more detail. So the plans in terms of Doge for Lincolnshire, obviously very topical with everything that's going on around the world at the moment. How are you going to work practically with potentially local Conservatives? You've got a mixture of different parliamentarians here, and also a national Labour government.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're going to be potentially the first Reform mayor of this area, there's going to be an interesting
dynamic, isn't it?
Dynamic, indeed.
Exactly.
How are you going to do it?
Now, one thing I'd like to start with is, I feel that in this devolution deal, Lincolnshire's a poor relation. Now, the 3 Conservative council leaders, what they put together with government means actually you're just a glorified committee chairman. Right. And you can't say, I'm going to put this road here. You can't get your budget through without the say-so of councillors. So this is why I wanted a strong manifesto, which is about growth, it's about skills, it's about saving taxpayers' money, it's about future-proofing the economy. And then I will actually shame councillors if they're opposing this. I'll be actually shaming them, and I'll be having all my meetings public and broadcast, and I'll say, so you're saying then that you don't want a Lincolnshire Doge? Are you opposing us getting better deals for the taxpayer? So I think you need a strong person who is prepared to do that, and I am that person.
Okay, and at the national level, obviously the Minister of State for Local Government, Jim McMahon, has been quite clear on the fact he wants consistency across the mayoralties around England. It sounds to me as though Lincolnshire has got a different structure and a different sort of inconsistent mayoralty. So how do you work with the powers that be in Whitehall when it comes to negotiating a second tier sort of settlement if you become the mayor?
I think what it's about is actually looking, is there any policy which works within what I want to do for Lincolnshire and what really the public in Lincolnshire want. So it's looking for commonalities, and then it's actually putting some pressure on, look, how can you treat that region differently to Lincolnshire? Why should we be the poor relation? You are saying you want to devolve more powers, put your money where your mouth is. So I mean, from day one, to me, when I get elected, I will be WhatsApping Angela Rayner the next day and saying, I'd like a meeting next week.
So to go into another area that you're campaigning on, as you've just outlined, you're looking at housing for Lincolnshire people. That includes potentially a new town somewhere in Lincolnshire as well, which I can imagine that's going to be in your text message over to Angela Rayner at some point. So how, where, when, why, and how you deliver it?
Look, I mean, housing, I don't think it's right across the country, and we've seen certainly lots of NIMBYism, haven't we? We've got lots of brownfield sites that you need to build on as well. But we need houses for young people. I think consecutive governments have let young people down, Ben. I mean, how many people live in shared housing now where they can't afford to get a mortgage, to get on the property ladder, even in their 30s? So we've got to have more affordable housing. We need more housing for the retirement age as well. I always say I before E, infrastructure before expansion. And I think where the system has gone wrong with planning is you might put 200 houses there, 1,000 there, but then never get the infrastructure in place. So it has a knock-on effect on GP places, on school places, on the roads. So I would look at potentially a new town in Lincolnshire, but there'll be no surprises with me. I believe in democracy, and I believe in a full consultation to see what the public think. And by having a new town, I think that's important because you'll have the infrastructure there, and it's all in one place, and it stops dribs and drabs across the county as well.
And in terms of the payment for this, I mean, it's obviously a very expensive exercise, and there are changes that central government are making to some of the pension funds, which obviously to be decided in terms of the mayoral agreement here in Lincolnshire. But how are you going to create that sort of level of funding that's going to be necessary for that? Because you've identified savings that are made through diversity and inclusion, but a lot of analysts would sort of question exactly how much that would save versus the amount of investment that's needed to grow your plan.
Look, I mean, as you know, Ben, we haven't got off an overview of the finances. You know, when you're not a member of that current council or government, you don't get an overview of the finances. So this is why I want to go in there. I want to do a deep dive and see where we can make savings. It won't be just on the diversity officers, of course it won't. It'll be looking at contracts, looking at what we're spending, looking at the tendering. But then it's about looking at inward investment as well. I mean, to me, as somebody who is pro-business, I want to set up a county-wide business association. I'll be having an industry-led skills board, because there's a brain drain across Lincolnshire. We can't get enough engineers, but we can't get enough plumbers or builders, which affects the building trade as well. So it's actually having an industry-led skills board where we have this joined-up approach, and also working with the likes of Nigel. He's got strong relations with the US, absolutely, and see what we can do working with the US to look at inward investment as well. I think we've got to think outside the box, got to think big with this, and we'll get it done.
I can imagine a Lincolnshire and Texas trade deal that you're going to be trying to negotiate.
That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it, Ben? Absolutely. I mean, another thing I want to do as well, I mean, one shocking statistic is in Boston, 25% of social housing goes to people not even being born in Britain. And you'll know from when you was an MP, some people are waiting 8 or 9 years to get a social house, aren't they? A house, and the social housing, exactly. And so I've been across to Hull, and I know you're going across to Hull later. You've got to see this, it's amazing. They're building a veterans village.
Right.
And they've got the planning permission, and if you look at the bomber county of Lincolnshire, we've got tens of thousands of veterans. What disused buildings can we use as a temporary place to help, I mean, veterans kickstart that going back into civilian life again? So I think they've fought for us, so we've got to fight for them.
So Andrea, you might be one of the most senior elected reform mayors in the country. So I think a lot of people are asking, really, what does reform look like post-election, and ultimately how you're going to measure reform as mayor?
Look, I've sort of realised how important this is going to be for the party and really for a potential future government. So I take it seriously. This is why I won't overpromise and underdeliver. There's going to be a point in 2 years' time where it'll be the new authority once it's divided up. Devolved authority, so there'll be elections then, and then obviously next year we've got the elections in Wales, and then going on to a general election. So what I will do, it's hitting the ground running. I've got my manifesto, I've got a plan of what I will go and do, and it's delivering for the public to use this as a blueprint for common sense, Ben, to show that reform can provide for the public with the right things, what's needed when we're in power.
So actually quite a lot of pressure in a way, because Nigel Farage's eyes are going to be on you as a mayor, and potentially the other mayors around the country, to demonstrate what you're doing in government, to then show what a reform potential larger parliamentary party, maybe a government of the future, could do in office as well. So how do you feel about that?
Look, I'm fine. There's not much that floors me, but I have to say Nigel and the team has been brilliant at supporting me.
Right.
I mean, look, I was in a marginal seat with the Conservatives. I didn't get the support that I have had with Reform, and it's been amazing. And Richard Tice has been brilliant, and coming up with a manifesto, what will work for Lincolnshire. No, so it's the only way's up, actually. I feel quite confident that we can deliver.
Yeah. And one of the key things that we've been looking at as a organisation is inequalities around the country, and Lincolnshire is
it's like a microcosm, actually, isn't it?
Really is interesting.
Yes.
When you look at some of the health inequalities in particular, South Holland and the Deepings has got one of the largest obesity rates anywhere in the country, but it doesn't necessarily mean to say that every part of the economy is cash rich, asset poor, or etc. So how do you start working with various different integrated systems across Lincolnshire? Of course, you're going to be cutting quite a few through Doge. What's left, and how do you prioritise to drive down that inequalities within the county?
That's a good point, Ben. I mean, this is why I said that not only my Transport for Lincolnshire, my skills board, it's actually looking at how can we work collectively, because there's not only the private sector, the public sector, it's the charities, which actually help Lincolnshire work, isn't it, and right across the country. So I want to make sure that I'm open with a strong voice, that I'm quite good at bringing people together. And I think being a former MP, same as you, Ben, we're used to doing that, aren't we?